You should be required to get a license for a gun just like a car. After all, you need a driver's license to have a car, so gun owners should do the same thing. That's a popular narrative. I guess they might not realize that you could use an automobile to cause harm. The bigger problem with this concept is what makes you think driver's licenses is such a wonderful thing in the first place. One problem with the car control argument is that there are several studies that indicate pre-licensed driver's training doesn't help as much as you might think. The first from Science Direct notes that although driver training programs are currently popular, the degree to which they reduce crash involvement remains ambiguous. A second study in injury prevention had a conclusion that education and training programs might prove to be effective in reducing collisions if they are more empirically based. The results of their survey was that international literature provides little support for the hypothesis that formal driver instruction is an effective safety measure. A third study by the Transportation Research Board in Australia was a review that suggested that driver training cannot be considered an effective crash countermeasure and that other approaches such as increased supervision and graduated licensing for novice drivers are likely to make greater and more lasting contributions to road safety. The review suggests that driver training cannot be considered an effective crash countermeasure by itself. This does not indicate that training is a bad idea, only that government-imposed mandates can be. An example, hunter education over the decades has proven to be very effective at increasing safety. The lesson to take from this is that something like cars or firearms should be introduced to people when they're interested in learning, and that experience is ultimately the best teacher, not a government-mandated program. Both gun owners and drivers who are experienced and respectful do better with fewer government restrictions. Civilian gun owners typically experience lower negligent discharge rates than government personnel. Several formal studies have documented that reducing restrictions and government regulations also increases driver safety. For example, experiments have found that busy junctions where 2 or 3 people had been knocked down or killed previously had injury and death rates reduced by reducing the amount of government interference. Now, you can't just dump that immediately on folks, but ultimately it's far better to let experience guide people's decisions than government mandate. So licensing is not really the ultimate solution.